All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Power of Word author panel at the Arts Exchange. My name is Teresa Davis, and I am excited today to talk about the Dolly Parton Anthology. Let me say this, okay? So I'm going to start off with thanking our sponsors. And if it looks like I'm looking from the distance whimsically, it's because I am. I'm looking at a whole other screen because I was going to print all this stuff out and I thought, why print? Save a tree. Read it off the screen. So welcome to the Power Words Author Panel. My name is Teresa Davis. I am the Literary Director for the Arts Exchange. The Arts Exchange, known as the Southeast Community Cultural Arts Center, receives support from the Fulton County Fulton County, Atlanta, Georgia Boards of Commissioner, the Georgia Council for the Arts under the guidance of the state Georgia legislators, and support from the National Endowment of the Arts. The Community Foundation for Greater Arts through a Place to Perform grant, Fidelity Charitable, and the estate of Dr. Doris Derby. We also receive funding from Peach State Healthcare Plan, and our literary programs are made possible in partnership with South Fulton Institute. Support is also provided by individuals and business donors, as well as members, and we encourage you all to become supporters and members of the Arts Exchange because we're doing awesome things, and you should totally be a part of that. It'll change your complexion. It'll fix your posture. I mean, the things that it will help you do, just being a part of such a powerful organization. Do it for yourself. Do it for America. Okay. Hey, I am here today with Dustin Brookshire and Julie Bloemeke. These are the co-editors of the Dolly Parton Anthology. Let me say this. I have put their bios in the chat so you can peruse them, but I will also do a little, okay, did a weird thing. Oh, because it's a long thing. Okay, so here we go. Again, reading from another screen. Julie is the 2021 Georgia Author of the Year finalist for poetry. Her debut full-length collection, Slide to Unlock, which I'm going to say I was totally jealous of that title because I totally thought of that. The first time when I opened my iPad, I was like, that's a title for a book. And I don't know if is that where you got it from?
Indeed. The iPhone itself came to me in the shower.
Yep. I was like, Slide to Unlock. I said, and it also could kind of sound kind of dirty, so it could be all kind of poetry book. Oh, yes. We're also here with Dustin, the author of Never Picked First for Playtime. So how exciting is it to have two books out at the same time?
It's been really fun.
So are they like meeting in the same spaces?
I'm trying
to about that.
Yeah, I'm trying to cross promote, so it's nice. Like if I can slip in a word about the new chapbook at a Dolly event, and then it's way more easier to slip in the Dolly book at one of my chapbook events.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm not gonna read your whole bios. I've had some coffee, but not sufficient enough to navigate the screens and all the things. But our viewers can check your bios out in the chat. And viewers, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them and I will pass them on because that's what I do. So I asked the, AI chat thing has been in the news a lot lately. So I asked it, what would be some awesome questions to ask about this particular anthology from these particular poets? And I'm going to read the questions that the chat came up with, which are awesome, but also frightening. But we're going to start off. So how did you approach the selection process for the poems included in this anthology? Y'all can tag team. Y'all choose who wants to answer.
Yeah, I'm a little impressed that that's the AI question.
It's a good question.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Dustin, do you want to lead in or I can jump in either way? It was not an easy process, let me tell you what, because, I mean, everyone knows how loved and adored Dolly Rebecca Parton is. And we had no idea when we put this call out just how much love and adoration that we were going to see coming in. I mean, we were flooded. As we like to say, we had a tour bus load full of poems. But we still extended the deadline because we were so curious to see the range of things that we were going to get. So I think all in all, we had what, Dustin, over 300?
Yes.
Yeah. And there were times when it was exceptionally heartbreaking to let a poem go, but it just didn't fit into the trajectory. And I have to say that the poets that submitted, they really kind of gave us the trajectory for the book. We had some ideas, some notions of possibly where it might go, but there were surprises at every turn. And that was part of the fun, is learning things that we thought we knew about Dolly, taking us into a different place and taking us into personal experience, taking us into gender identity, taking us into just about every realm that you could imagine and some that you couldn't. So, but I'll let Dustin speak more to that.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of surprises. And I think we had we used Submittable, so you can like tag poems, between each other. So only you, and I think we had a label that was damn, but not enough Dolly, because there were just so many good poems that were so damn good. And I was like, I would publish this in my magazine. I run a magazine, Limp Wrist. I was like, I'd publish this in a heartbeat, but for this anthology, I just need a little more Dolly. And that was like the painful part, is because like when you really love a poem, you want to publish it. So to have to say no, it really was. It sounds dramatic, but it really was heartbreaking, because like you're just really thrilled with the poem, and there were times, Julie and I pretty much agreed. I think we like to say like 98% of the time, like that made life very easy working together. Absolutely. And then when there were a couple of times that we didn't agree, we talked it out. So some of these poems were discussed, and I'm not joking, for a solid hour, one poem for a solid hour, where we would just start the conversation. I'd go, okay, make your case. So she'd have the ground for 15 minutes. And then I'd be like, okay, this is my rebuttal. Your turn again. And and then we would come to an agreement. And have to say, there never was a heated moment. We just talked things out. We've been friends for over 10 years, but we talked more this last year than we have ever talked in our life. I told her, after the book came out, I was like, it's weird that we haven't talked every day, 7 days a week. What's going on? Because in the promotion phase, we still have to talk a lot, but not as much when we were making the book.
Yes. Imagine just having a conversation and each party presenting their sides and nobody, fighting, or it just sounds like how a country should work. Huh.
Exactly. It helps that Dustin and I have a similar sense of humor too. So when we were getting kind of convoluted a little bit, we'd be like, okay. And one of us would crack a joke and then we'd bust out laughing.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I get that. That's awesome. That's how partnerships work though, right? So you brought up some of the themes. So here's another question from the little machine guy. Many of the poems in the anthology address themes of femininity, gender identity, and sexuality. How do you think Dolly Parton has impacted conversations around these topics?
First, I just have to say, everything I'd heard about this AI chat stuff and examples were bad. These are damn good. So now I'm actually scared, because
I'm scared too.
Someone shared it writing a villanelle, and which is a form I love. And I was like, that's not a damn villanelle. It's not repeating, it's not rhyming. But now you have me scared again that, okay, maybe there is a future for this. Half of our anthology, roughly 52%, identifies as a member of the LGBTQI community. And so, as a member of that community, I feel like I can't speak for all homos, as I like to say, or my queer community, but I know that, Dolly is one of our icons. We gravitate towards strong, authentic women. And Dolly has always lived her life very authentically and never apologized for it. And a lot of gay men, for me, admire that. And that's something I think we wish we could have always done, because we have to come out. We have to find that way to be our authentic self. Thankfully, that's changing in a lot of areas, because I see a lot of kids coming out earlier in safe spaces, but then also it's regressing in a lot of places too, where that is not safe. I think that Dolly is just someone, and I think I know, if you Google, nobody has a bad story about Dolly. So she's not bad mouthing other people. She's building up other women. She's not putting other women down. She's amplifying. She's joining on projects. Let's face it, her name. There are duos sometimes I've been like, wow, that was probably nice of her. Like, I know it also is good business decision for her to join up with other people because she may be getting an audience that doesn't know her. But at this point in her career, she can do whatever the hell she wants, pretty much with no explanation. But she finds the time to build others up and to join in them. And I really love that about her. She has a hell of a business sense. I mean, you look at what they did at Dollywood recently. I think it's day one, you get tuition reimbursement. Like, what companies do that? Like, that's something because education is important to her, which you see in her endeavors, like the Imagination Library, just to say. And Julie, I'll turn it over to you because you know I'll babble way too much.
Well, we're both going to. When it comes to Dolly, it's really hard to edit ourselves, right? I think too with Dolly, so she gives people permission, and I think that's it. You know, we all want to be welcomed into the Church of Dolly Parton because she shows us what kindness and love truly are by example, without being preachy, without being religious, right, per se. And there's that story at the end of Shima Oli and Jad Abumrad's podcast where she's talking about finding God, you know, on her own. And part of that was finding her identity and embracing herself as a feminine singer, right? Like as she would identify in that way. But also it's sort of her party line at concerts that drag queens look better than she does, right? So she's inviting everyone into this way of expression and causing us all to stop and think about how we want to show up in the world, not just in how we act and behave, but also in how we dress and how we position ourselves, right? And there's something really lovely about that. And the thing about her that always has captivated me is she is hilarious and she's incredibly brilliant and her rhetorical turns are great. I mean, in an interview, when someone asks her, you know, what are the 3 words to describe your style? She says trash, trash, and trash. I mean, it's fabulous, right? So like she's got humor, but she's got authenticity at the same time. Authenticity, of course, is, you know, that's authenticity from the inner heart, but you know, it takes a lot of money to look this fake, right? Or is that to look this cheap? That's it. Dustin, correct me if I get it wrong. I sometimes get so excited when I talk about Dolly that I'll forget little parts of, you know, quotes and things like that. But I think that's what it is. And so many poems in the anthology speak to Dolly being sort of a beacon of safety and courage in gender identity and expression. And I love that. And it comes all across the board, from transgender folks, from non-binary folks. And we loved that we were able to be so inclusive in this anthology and have Dolly represented in so many ways and through so many different generations and ages, which is something we didn't expect. And that's really lovely too. So we have these bits about coming into feminine identity when the Porter Wagner show was coming on and feeling sort of the oppression that Dolly experienced with Porter, all the way up to, you know, Dolly kind of having this resurgence around Miley Cyrus. So it sort of spans the whole gamut.
And Julie talked about Dolly's humor, which is something I love, because when she asks, you know, very serious topics, because she says, I'm not political, but she actually is. If you look at her songs, she's very political. She's just not political in the sense that people want to see her on a stage saying X, Y, Z. But she, you know, I think when she was asked about marriage equality, and she was like, what, don't gay people deserve to be as miserable as all of us straight people in marriages? Yeah. You know, I remember when there was a lot of trans ban bills, which are coming back in different ways. But this was during her Pure and Simple tour, because I had to drive to North Carolina to see her. And it was a big thing around the bathroom bans. And she's like, I don't care if you're an alien, if you're human, if you're white, you're black, whoever you are, when you got to pee, you got to pee, people. Let people pee in peace. Like, she just puts her humor onto everything that just diffuses even the people who would not agree with her. Like, they're able to just let it go and not get angry because it's Dolly and the way that she does it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you'd be hard pressed to move through the world and not have some political fiber in you. I mean, everything, you know, is political. And, you know, I do appreciate the artists who can like put those politics, those ideas, those thoughts into their music. And, you know, they don't have to stand and pontificate about it on on a podium or anything. They put it on the song, and then people hear the song, and then, you know, people resonate with that, or it speaks to them in some kind of way. And you move forward from there. Like I like the way you all are the Church of Dolly. I used to sit at the altar of Prince in the very same way. I mean, like so much of me growing up, my identity, as far as me shaping my own identity, came from these different influences. There's some Dolly in there, there's some Prince in there, there's some Freddie Mercury in there, there's a whole lot of things in there, and these are all people who were able to take that that love of humanity, I'd like to say, and put it into a song in a way to where humanity heard it, if that makes sense. I get kumbaya when I start talking about some of the musicians that I love too. That's great. So here's another question. Are there any particular poems in the anthology that you feel speak to the spirit of Dolly Parton's music and persona? Good question, right?
I'm sort of stunned. I'm having that pause that this is an AI question. That's wild.
Yeah, Dustin, I'm pretty sure if I said, tell me more details about Julie and Dustin, it would have done it.
Here's the backstory. Yeah.
No, I don't need to do that. I mean, they all speak to Dolly in some way, or they wouldn't be in this anthology. So it's really hard because we never like to pick one poem over another because we love them all, or they wouldn't be in there. There are ones that approach it in different ways. Are we talking about Dolly as the singer? Are we talking about Dolly as the actress? Are we talking about, how Dolly helped the speaker of a poem, really accept themselves or find something about themselves? And we have some poems that use Dolly lyrics that the poem would not really be successful as it is if it did not have those lyrics, which in a way that is still paying tribute to Dolly, by using her song. And I'll let Julie jump in and add.
Yeah, so there's also historical moments, which I love too, because you're kind of getting a trajectory of things. So for example, Dorianne Lux has a poem called Dolly, when Dolly said no to Elvis, or Dolly says no to Elvis, right? Because she refused to let Elvis have the rights to I Will Always Love You, which is a great moment. And then Donna Voyer also has a poem about Dolly's initial refusal to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So we have these incredibly personal tied in poems. So Terry Elam's poem is, Dolly is literally at the dinner table with them, like as she's listening to or watching Soul Train, and all of this is kind of coming in at once. So Dolly's a member of the family, and at the same time, we're also getting these moments of Dolly historically. So I love that the book kind of goes back and forth, sort of interweaves those aspects, and really looks at Dolly from all different perspectives. Carolyn Oliver has a poem about Dolly, what would happen if Dolly was, president of the United States, right? Which is absolutely hilarious and lovely and campy and fun. And it's a really great poem in terms of imagination and sort of bringing people into that idea. But, that sense of interweaving kind of happens throughout. And that's one of the things that Dustin and I were really thrilled with. I have to confess it, and I hope it's okay that I shared this, Dustin, but it was an early fear for us that we might get all of the same kind of poems. But we didn't. The variety and diversity just blew us away to the point that, we would get a certain poem and one of us would call the other one and go, "Are you sitting down? Oh my gosh, have you seen this one that's crossed the transom? Like, this is incredible." So it really was such an exciting partnership to see how all of that could kind of come together. And there were constant surprises too, which was really fun.
I think how that conversation, Julie's making it PG, was we would go, "Girl, damn, are you sitting down?" That is we always knew when the phone call started with "girl," it was okay. About to hear a poem that she's read that I have not.
Yeah.
They're surprising. I mean, you have Emma Bolden's poem, in the anthology. Emma is asexual, and that's key to this poem. Who would expect to have a poem, and it's called Asexual Love Poem, to Dolly Parton? Like, who expects that you're going to see that?
Yeah.
You have Stephen Rain.
Asexual ode to Dolly Parton. Yeah.
And, Stephen Rains uses Peter Hujar, in a poem, who's a photographer that died of AIDS. And that that ending of that poem is just so freaking Dolly. Like, I'm not going to ruin it. People need to read it. But it's just like, when you think of a Dolly story, you're like, it's everything that you've ever heard from her. And it's based on a Fran Lebowitz interview that Fran disclosed this story at a library.
Yeah. No, nice. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. One more question. So Dolly Parton is an icon of American popular culture, right? So what do you hope your readers who are not as familiar with Dolly, what do you hope they gain from engaging with this anthology?
Oh, that's a good question. It's sort of a hard question because it's like a long list. Is, you know, I think with this latest resurgence, because Dolly has always been a name, and I think she's very much right in thanking Miley Cyrus, because kids knowing her from that show have now become fans. I think that helped make her career, I don't want to say longer, but put her back in the spotlight, because I feel like she's ebbed and flows at times, and she's just in this resurgence right now. So I think that people are really seeing maybe what they did not know before about how multifaceted she is, that all these things that she does, that she's not just a singer. She has books. She's this, she's in these movies. She's producing movies. She's, you know, she's everywhere. And that's exciting. But I think seeing everyone from these different walks of life and seeing how she impacted them, because you get a sense of that from every poem, no matter if that's something that they're discussing necessarily in the poem, it comes out from their narrative in the poem, the impact, the wide range that she has impacting people's lives and what they write about. I also hope they really pay attention about the Imagination Library, which, you know, we mentioned in a couple places in the book, because it's one of the most proud things that Dolly has is the Imagination Library, because her father being illiterate, and she says he was the smartest man that she knew, in fact, of that. And he was very proud of her starting that. So any purchases that are made of the anthology through Madville Publishing do a little good in the world, because all of our editor royalties are going to the Imagination Library, and because of the fact that that's one of Dolly's proudest accomplishments.
That's beautiful. I love that. I love that. So does that happen regardless of how you get the anthology, whether you do it through the publisher or through some of these other outlets? The proceeds still act the same, right?
Yep, as long as the end purchase goes back to Madville. So if you're purchasing on Amazon, they're going to get funds. If you're doing a bookstore, they're going to get funds for it. Yes.
Okay.
We just advocate to buy directly from Madville because we love supporting that independent press.
Yeah, please. Support the independent presses. Last question, and then we're going to do some sharing if you all don't mind.
Can I jump in on that one before we go?
Please do.
Because this is one of my favorite things to say about the anthology, so I can't help it. So part of what we were so excited about was to be able to subvert Dolly cliche, right? To make people think about Dolly in new ways and take on what they thought they knew about Dolly and turn it upside down. So it's expanding and inviting different levels of conversation about Dolly Parton. And I love that we had the opportunity to do that. And I really do feel like a number of the poems do that. And the hope is, of course, that there will be some Dolly Parton fans that come through poetry, some new Dolly Parton fans. So why not share the love?
Yeah, no, that's great. So, okay. And speaking of the anthology and having all these overflow of poems, do you see this anthology as a one-off project, or do you think that there is a potential for future anthologies dedicated to other musicians or artists, or as like a compilation of artists?
Well,
I could tell Dustin was like, I am jumping in on this one.
Because Julie and I have had many side conversations, and she's like, anybody that knows me knows I'm always pitching an idea. And most of the time, that idea is coming before I'm finished with one that I'm working on. And so Julie was like, babe, love you, but we got to finish this before we could talk about this next thing. And I was like, well, I'm still going to bring it up in 2 months. And then, we still weren't done. And she was like, we have to finish. And I was like, I'm going to bring it up again in 2 months. And so like clockwork, I just keep, bringing it up. There is something that we're in very serious discussion about. I don't want to say too much, but I'll say that Dolly will have an 80th birthday in a couple of years. And it could be cool to have something come out the year that Dolly turns 80.
Yep. That's
Anything from you, Julie? Yeah. No? You want to add anything to that?
Oh, sorry. I misheard you there a little bit. No, I mean, there's not much that we can add. I do think it's sort of funny though, because from the beginning with all of this, this project, there were a lot of like secrets when we started working on the Limp Wrist, Dolly issue, when Dustin invited me to co-edit with him. We were already talking about the book even before that issue was out. And then we signed on with Madville, but part of the deal was that we had to keep that under wraps for what, Dustin, almost a year? Because we wanted to announce the news on Dolly's birthday. So we were just like, stay tuned, more secrets, you'll see, big reveal. So now we're ending the book by doing that same thing again. So that just seems to be how it goes.
That's awesome. So we're going to see the cover of the book, and I want to ask, and this is not AI, this is me asking. All right. So this cover is amazing, right? How hard was it for you to get permission to use this image? And has Dolly seen this book, and have you all received any comments from her as far as approval or, oh my God, this is amazing? Yeah.
Well, I'm sitting here, so I have not had a heart attack because we've been contacted by Dolly. So if you hear of my death, you will know that Dustin had a heart attack because Dolly contacted them. I mean, I have not been shy. She's known for her pink letterhead, butterfly at the top, Dolly logo letters that she write. Like, I would love to meet her in person, don't get me wrong, but I am just hoping for one of those letters so that I can immediately give it to my fiance to have it framed, because I'll be sobbing and I don't want to get it wet, like, and running to Michael's and getting it framed. I'm like, no, you're gonna have to frame it in front of me because I want you to steal my Dolly letter. But so Dolly's team is really kind and generous. Of course, extremely professional, which, I mean, shouldn't have surprised us, but I guess sometimes you think, oh, who are these people we're going to deal with? But of course, Dolly's only going to have people on her team that have her values, right? So it totally makes sense. We worked through her team thanks to a contact that had been established. And, we were pretty shocked at how easy it felt to us. They let us look at 12 pictures, I think. Julie, is that right? Was it 12? Like, we got to look through 12 pictures.
Yeah, and then they sent 5, right? It was something like that.
Yeah, we had some options, which we were just like, wait, what? We get options? Like, so that was, I mean, I say this all the time. People are probably tired of hearing it, but I never in my life thought I would be texting so much or typing in an email. Have we heard from Dolly's attorney? Like, that's the last part. And so I'm like, sometimes I teared up because I'm a huge Dolly fan. I'm like, I can't believe this is my life that I'm getting to text. Did we get the form back? But it's Fran Strine's photo, and it's a gorgeous, gorgeous photo. Something that I really love about it is if you look at it closely, in these last years, Dolly has been wearing gloves over her hands as part of her performance and her look in this photo. And she does that still a lot in photos. She's not doing it in this photo. And I love that. I feel like it's an embrace of Dolly at her age. And I think a lot of people, and nothing is wrong with it, but a lot of people tend to go with a young Dolly photo, like that 70s, 80s look. And so we were very excited to pick something that is, Dolly now. We did. We were thrilled when Reed Strauss, who did our cover design, front and back covers, when she pulled that together. I think that was another damn girl conversation, like we call it, scrolling.
Yep, exactly. Well, and the other thing about this working relationship with Dustin is it has just been filled with moments of serendipity. And we like to talk about this because way back in our friendship, I mean, in the early days, we had gone to our first Knoxville Pride together. we were at this bar and we looked up and there's a poster of Dolly above us. And I'd like to say that I felt like she was our guiding force from that point forward. Dustin took me to my first Dolly Parton concert. He was horrified that I had never been, right? And even though people were literally being carted out on the ambulance and taken away because of heat stroke, there we were, you know, sweating through everything, singing, crying, embracing, you know, the full Dolly experience. And that's kind of what working on this anthology was like too. We had in mind very early on two things. One, that we were going to commit our royalties to the Imagination Library because there was no way we were jumping on board without doing that. And two, we had an idea about what we wanted the cover art to look like, and it didn't work out. I can't go into details, but then we thought, okay, well, let's be bold, let's be brave, let's be courageous. Let's go to Dolly and say, hey, would you, it's an ask, but would you be willing? And so Team Dolly was like, absolutely, here you go. Just, you know, make sure that we get copies of the anthology, which of course. But what I love is that, you know, we have Dolly and she's kind of looking, you know, down. So sort of this humble, like black and white photo and shimmery. And then you flip over to the back and you have all these bursts of color, because one of the things that was so important to Dustin and I was to be sure that we highlighted muralists who on their own have been so motivated and inspired by Dolly that they went out and painted, you know, murals all across the country. And again, this is another testament to, you know, just the community that Dolly has. When we were putting these murals on the cover, we discovered we actually needed to have someone go out and photograph them so we could identify the photographer. And so one of the photographers that actually has the picture of the book lady here went out on Thanksgiving Day, because she lives in Nashville, to get that picture for us on the back cover. And I always tend to forget where they all are from. Actually, wait, one's from Chicago, right, Dustin?
Yep.
And here I'm in Chicago right now. Oh, I think there might be someplace I have to visit. Anyway, so we have Chicago, California, and then the last two are in Nashville. But I love that we have this sort of, you know, black and white. Sorry, I always get confused with the turning on the front, and then this huge pop of color on the back, and also paying tribute to visual artists as well as poets, because part of all of this is collaboration. I mean, Dolly is not just one thing, and this book is not just one thing either.
Yeah, so, I mean, and if you're talking about putting things together for an anthology, I mean, their picture is their poem, so they are actually contributing to that as well, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. All right, I'm excited to hear some of these. Oh, what'd you say, Dustin? Go ahead.
I was like, so yeah, Team Dolly has 20 copies. We do not know how those get divided. So, you know, I don't know if like Sister Willadine is reading a copy, like who gets the copies on, you know, but we do know that they have them. And so that's exciting. And she's also busy. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes her, you know, 6 months or even a year to get, you know, to a book, given how busy that she is.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. Okay, so I want to hear some poems. How are y'all going to do this? Who's going to go first? And then what I'll do is I'll yank us out and put us back in the stream.
Julie, do you want to kick off? You want me to? You pick, Julie.
Or we could go back and forth. So given Women's History Month. Oh, sorry?
I'll leave both of you on the screen and y'all can go back and
forth.
Okay,
great. Yeah, and I'm sorry about the loudness outside. I'm literally in downtown Chicago, so that's why. There's only so much.
Like, is that horns honking? What am I hearing? Yeah.
And I'm like, is there a way to mute? I don't think that there is. I have Post-it notes on my hotel door that say, "Do not knock, do not disturb, recording in progress." So I'm sure everyone's going, what is going on in there? But given Women's History Month, Dustin and I always try to make it a point to spotlight, you know, different poems from the anthology so that we get a chance to really highlight as many people as we can. So I'm going to open with a poem by Roberta Schultz, who, by the way, has just been tireless in her promotion of the anthology. So one of the exciting things is getting to be able to meet and hear the poets read their poems themselves. So I really look forward to the day that I get to meet Roberta and hear her read this poem in person. This is called Interview. No high school wanted to pay a newly minted MA with no experience to teach English and coach volleyball. But I decided if I wore my silky new powder blue pantsuit inspired by the Porter Wagner show, someone somewhere would see my shine. So I drove my 65 VW Beetle out Route 32 to Claremont County, told that principal, of course, I could coach volleyball, even though I'd last played in 7th grade. Went on and on about how I loved to write, sprayed sass around his office like Aquanet. I could tell I would not get the gig. Halfway home, the tie rod scraped the paint of the do not pass line. I imagined Dolly driving back roads home from a long country tour. A sleek and can-do woman jumped out of my car, hoisted thin, rusty metal from the road, lashed it to the axle with her matching beaded hair tie. I brushed dirt from my sparkly sky blue ass, waved and blew kisses at the farm boys whistling past in their Ford pickup truck. And that's Roberta Schultz.
I just realized my Dolly shirt's not showing, so I got to show that real quick before I read, because
there you are.
For this, I am going to read a poem by Marina Carrera. She's a fabulous poet. She has books, so Google her. She's also edited an anthology, so just Google Marina Carrera and check out her products. Her poem is Just Because I'm a Woman, which I will also say that's where our title comes from, is a play from that song, Just Because I'm a Woman. So her title is also the name of one of my favorite Dolly Parton songs. My wildflower face follows everywhere I go. There I am, tattoos and piercings preceding any introduction I make by mouth or tit. Oh, I'm alarming, arresting the gaze of folks on the street who don't know what to make of my drag femininity, my button up a beatitude, my skirt a pirate flag, eyelashes curled to the gods, lips pouted to perfection, nails sharpened for all the glass ceilings. Dolly, they see little old me, figure I'm just another loon looking for freedom where the founding fathers promised none for anyone not white and male. Miss Parton, I pat my own back and smile in response, rosy cheeks against their chagrin, feet shuffling through horseshit like a sexy pioneer. And that's Just Because I'm a Woman by Marina Carrera. You're on mute, Julie.
Sorry. Okay, so now that I figured out mute, I'm off again. So we're going to do a second poem, correct? Just confirming. Okay, so I am going to read one of the things that Dustin and I were really thrilled with is that we got a number of prose poems for the anthology and also some form poems, we might say. What do we have, Dustin? A golden shovel, a villanelle, sonnet.
A ghazal.
Ghazal, right. Okay. So, and then some prose poems too. So I'm actually going to be reading one by Chin Sun Lee, which is called Rescue. And Chin Sun's debut novel is coming out Upcountry in the fall of 2023. This is Rescue. We were at a Walmart auto center somewhere in Alabama, which wasn't on my bucket list, but better than being dead in a ditch. They said it would be another hour, so I told Em, might as well forage for food. I'm like a dog that way. My stomach never forgets mealtime. We went into the store and paid for sad, cold sandwiches at the self-checkout. Those machines always make me feel like the end times are near. Dee called, but I was still pissed at him and let it ring. Up until then, it was all serendipity. M's last-minute invite to St. George Island, my coworker wanting extra shifts, us finding a honky-tonk seafood shack still open after the long drive that first night. Islands in the Stream came on, the Dolly Kenny version, and we got up from our stools to twirl around and shimmy with our beers in hand. I said, someone told me listening to her saved his life. Em said, I wish I had a good rescue story. The next morning, beyond our balcony, clear blue waves and a white sand. We found a beach umbrella in the trash that was janky, like Em's car, but usable. Steps away from our rental was a seafood joint with an outdoor bar. We ate fried shrimp in plastic baskets lined with checkered paper, drank Cuba Libres, and bitched about how our men were failing us. I often see exit signs too late or when it's not convenient. I left my sunglasses on the ledge outside our room one night, and they were still there the next day. Another night, I left my wet swimsuit at the restaurant and only remembered after they closed. While M was sleeping, I went back. The lights in the kitchen were on, the door was unlocked, and there on the counter was my bag with the swimsuit. Our luck ran out on the way back. Or maybe it didn't. I was driving, going 80 miles per hour on I-10 when the road started feeling bumpy. I slowed down, but the bumps and rattling got worse. I said, I'm pulling over. Just as I came to a full stop, a rubber tire flew off and rolled into the ditch on the passenger side. We got out and stared at the naked tire. A truck whizzed past with an ad for Dollywood. M yelled, "Hello, Dolly," and we said how funny it was that she popped up at the start and end of our trip. After M called AAA, she said, "I can't believe we're not dead."
I'm going to share a poem by Ginny Mohlberg, and it's titled, Is It All You?, which is taken from the Barbara Walters interview in 1977. So it does have the epigraph of Barbara Walters in a 1977 interview with Dolly Parton. At 12, I hated them so bad I'd pinch myself at night. Big balloons, they called me. Luke laughing as I somersaulted across the gym floor. In high school, they got me a date to the dance, but Casey called me platinum. My nipples like CDs in a frame. Big tits, blonde hair, that's who I was. Lucky. Why don't you wear glasses? A distracted teacher once asked, as if my boobs were too big for my thesis. I've spent so much time wanting other people to like me, the Barbie hard bodies of junior high girls, later philosophy majors with joints, wanting my body to change, changing my body to fit. After the reduction, my breasts hurt for a year. I carried little pumps in my pockets where my pink blood sloshed like liquid change. I've warned men of my scars, not porn smooth, my dyed blonde hair and lifeguard skin, my lines all puckered and popped. But do you ever feel like you're a joke? Barbara pushes Dolly. Her bird laugh tinkles like a bracelet. Barbara doesn't get it. The work it took to beat the men to her body's punchline. What is kissed and is killed? Anyway, I like the kind of person I am, Dolly says, which makes me like myself too. Over poached eggs, wet with buttery sauce, a friend assures me, one day you'll know, wink, wink, as she gripes about breastfeeding, as if I'd ever know, as if all my life I've been wanting to know, as if I hadn't made the choice again and again not to. At 87, my grandmother goes in for a radical mastectomy, like my mother 10 years before her. She kids, the women in our family leave more breast tissue at UT Southwestern than anyone in Dallas. We're all lighter as we laugh, helping her undress, her purple scar smiling under what used to be. And that was Ginny Mohlberg's Is It All You?
Thank y'all so much. Oh my God, I can't. I've seen parts of it. I'm waiting on my copy. I ordered it from Karis. They have it. I just gotta drive in traffic to get it. And I had this idea. I was like, I'm gonna do it. I was gonna do it Saturday, but then Saturday decided after freeze warning week that it was gonna be 80, and everybody and their mother was driving yesterday, so I did not. But I can't wait to get into it. I want to thank you all so much for spending a little bit of your Sunday with me this afternoon. And I would like for you to let us know where we can get this anthology and any upcoming events you have associated with it or your own projects.
I'll put in the chat, and Teresa, let's see if I can make this happen.
Yeah.
I put it in the private chat. We have a link tree if you're able to share that. But if anybody Googles Let Me Say This Anthology, then the word link tree, you will find our link tree. We have a link to Madville. When we have events coming up, we put them there. Interviews, reviews, we do those. That also means if you would like to interview us or review the book, get in touch with one of us or email us at letmesaythisanthology@gmail.com. It is that simple. letmesaythisanthology@gmail.com. We would love to zoom into classrooms, to talk about pop culture and poetry. Dolly, trust we can work a classroom discussion to anything that you may need. But that link tree really is the best source. We are on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter with the Let Me Say This account. We're also personally on those things too. So you can find us easily through that because we do tag ourselves. Julie, anything else on that?
Yeah, a couple things. So we, on April 5th, are going international. Dolly is going to the UK. And then, so we'll have information about that on Linktree. And then our next up moment is Wild and Precious Life, right? On the 12th of March. So, and then I know Dustin probably wants to talk about a couple things that he's doing with his new book. I am in Chicago because I'm on my way eventually to Toledo on the 31st of March to help kick off National Poetry Month in Toledo, Ohio. And what we are doing is an arts collaboration that involves photography, letterpress and broadside printing, filmmaking, and poems. So Carrie Troutman, who's also in the anthology, Dustin Pearson, and Ryan A. Bunch, all folks with Toledo connections, are reading brand new, shiny Toledo poems that they've written for the occasion. We have an opening from a special guest, which I cannot yet reveal, in Toledo. And we will be hanging a broadside of my poem Glass City from Slide to Unlock in the lobby of the Hilton in Toledo, because one of the commitments that the Hilton has in their refurbishing is to bring the arts of Toledo into the lobby space. And so they invited me to do this. So I am incredibly honored. So I thought, if we're going to do a little collaboration here, we're going to go big and do collaboration. So Sven Olaf Nelson of Pineapple Press and Design has been working on this broadside for probably about 6 months. So I am super excited to reveal that to everyone.
That is exciting. That is exciting.
Very, very exciting. So, and then we're off to the UK after that for Dolly. So, but how about never pick first for Playtime, Garrett? I almost said Gareth, Dustin.
No, I also want to say, I know who Julie's surprise speaker is, but I can't say, but I know.
He does. It's under wraps. The poets don't know. It's been this whole, I like surprises. So, this was something I was hoping I could pull off. And then when I did, we did our little Team Hilton. I'm just ecstatic. So you all will know after Friday the 31st.
And I have to give a shout out. So our international at Wolverhampton University, such a small world. And we did not know this when it was all coming together, but James Reeves, who is working on his PhD, that actually focuses on Dolly. So cool to be doing a PhD that gets to focus on Dolly. He is a former student of Stephen Roger Powers, who is in the anthology. So such a small world, and exciting that it all comes back together. But I do have a new book. I'll hold it up. Never Pick First for Playtime. So it is a tribute chapbook to Kinky. That's actually a cover of Kinky that she is holding. And Kinky is Denise Duhamel's 1997 classic book, which is all Barbie poems. So these are all Barbie poems. Pretty political. I didn't realize how political I was until I had it all together. I was like, oh, this may be my most political chapbook yet. Check out my website, dustinbrookshire.com. I'm available to do readings, interviews also for this book, and we'll zoom into classes. If you're watching this and you're in Miami, I'm going to be at Books and Books in Coral Gables at 5 p.m. with Julie Marie Wade. She's another South Florida writer, and she's launching a new book. So just check out, and I'd really love to talk to people about this one. I keep forgetting to promote myself because of Dolly. We've been promoting the Dolly book, and I'm like, oh wait, yeah, I need to throw in my book.
Yeah, no, it gets hard and tricky. It's like my brother is also an author, and I remember I'm promoting his book, and I was like, oh wait, by the way, I write too. I got books.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's tricky because you're excited about all the things, right? Well, I'm excited for both of you. I want to thank you for the work that you do in the poetry community, and the hard work I knew it was to bring together this anthology. I hope to submit to the next amazing idea. I know you already have brewing. It is a goal of mine. But I want to thank you so much for being here and joining me this Saturday afternoon. Thank you from the Arts Exchange as well. For our listening public, you may check this interview out on our YouTube and Facebook pages. It will be there forever. What? Forever. Yes, because the internet does not go away. But thank you so much, Dustin and Julie. Y'all have a great rest of your Sunday afternoon. Stay dry wherever you are. And hydrate, because that's important.
Very.
Thank you so much. Y'all have a great rest of your day.